How y'all doing? I'm the Watchman, and this is part three of the State of the Dead. And this is the ending to part two. I couldn't end it like that because the last two reasons are the most important. They're the most important. So, and I know at the end of part two, I tried to rush that last one. It really didn't. Only got like an inch of the reason in there, and I definitely couldn't end it that way. So I'm gonna go back. We're gonna go back and this right here, to me, is the most important reason why hell is not an eternal torment. Notwithstanding the fact that hell means grave. But as far as proof, for us to know, for you to really know, you know, and to clarify with others. Now, turn in your Bibles with me to Revelation 20. Like I said, to me, this is the most important right here. Revelation 20. Now, when you go to Revelation 20, we're going to read verses 13 and 14. Now, remember, as I stated earlier in part 2, death and hell. Because what's the ticket to the grave? With hell meaning the grave, what's the ticket to the grave? What's your one-way ticket to the grave? It's death. And we were seeing how death and hell are a lot of times in the same verses, because hell is just the grave. Well, right here in Revelation 20, verse 13 and 14, we see that both of them are in there. But there is something else that I want you to see. Well, I stated it at the end of 2, but I got to reiterate it and really state it and really talk about it. You know what I mean? But here it is. Revelation 20, verse 13. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. I'm going to stop right there. It says death and hell delivered up the dead that were in them. Now, if hell was eternal torment, and delivered up the dead, like we saw in part 1, for Ecclesiastes, what is it? Ecclesiastes 9:4, I want to say, or 9:6 says the dead know nothing. So if the dead were in hell, they wouldn't even know why they were there, or no, they wouldn't even know they were there. They wouldn't even know what pain felt like, for they know nothing. They're like zombies. You know what I mean? Like zombies sleep. There's sleep. You know what I mean? There's sleep. So when it says in hell gave up the dead, it makes no sense that they were being tortured in hell. You know what I mean? If they were dead and they know nothing, you know what I mean? Don't know nothing. But anyway, that ain't the point that I wanted to get to. I'm going to start back over at verse 13. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. Verse 14. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. That says it all right there. Now, if hell was already supposed to be burning and flames and torture, then how is hell itself cast into the lake of fire? Isn't the lake of fire supposed to be hell? So how is hell itself cast into the lake of fire? It makes no sense on earth. You gonna kill fire with fire? No. But if it was the grave, now put the grave right there. And death and the grave were cast into the lake of fire. Meaning, God is getting rid of all sin. So in the New Jerusalem, in the new heaven, which right there in chapter 21 starts with the new heaven, the first words is, and I saw a new heaven. So right here at the end of chapter 20, God is getting rid of all sin. Death only came about because of sin. So death in the grave, you only have a grave because of death. That's why it says death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. God is getting rid of all sin and all traces of it. In the new heaven and New Jerusalem, is there going to be death? Or will there be graves? No. That's why it says in verse 14, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. There will be no more death. There will be no more cemeteries, no more graves. See, if hell See, think about it. A lot of people already believe that hell is is you gonna be burning and being tortured, you know. But it says right here, hell is cast into the lake of fire. Again, I stress, if hell is already supposed to be fire and people burning and being tortured, why would you kill fire with fire? You know, you throwing hell inside of hell. You know, it don't make no sense at all. But God is getting rid of what he's saying right here is he's getting rid of death in the grave, because in the new heaven and new Jerusalem there will be no more pain and suffering, which leads to the last reason. Revelation 21:4. Now think about it. If hell is an eternal torment, people getting tortured forever, then there's going to be screams, pain, agony, and sorrow forever for those people in hell, right? If we go by hell being forever, right? Then that would mean people were being tortured and there would be pain and screaming forever, you know? But what does Revelation 21 verse 4 says? And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. There are no more traces of sin. There is no more death. Like he says, there is no more pain. There is no more sorrow. There is no more crying. Now, if hell and the lake of fire was eternal torment, then there would be crying forever. There would be pain forever. Now, see what I was. And this is what. Now, those are the 7 reasons. Those are the 7 reasons. And I have to say this real fast. I wanted to read this at the end of part 1. And then I wanted to read it in part 2. Didn't have no more time. So we're doing it in part 3. It's a statement. It's a statement of mine that I want to really bring to y'all attention. I want y'all to think about. How does the devil get us to defy God? How does the devil get us to defy God? He gets us to believe his lies. Because by believing his lies, we end up calling God a liar, and we may not even realize it. But what then becomes worse is when we teach others these lies, making us now enemies of God. When we thought we were doing his work, God's work, all alone. By believing his lies, we start calling God a liar and not even know it. Then when we start teaching those lies to others, we become enemies of God and not even know it. And the whole time we think we're doing God's work. We think we do. A lot of Satan's lies contradict the Bible, just like we just saw. Now, God clearly said in Revelation 21:4, there will be no more pain, there will be no more sorrow, there will be no more crying. But if you believe in eternal torment, people being tortured forever, then you're saying, no, God, there's going to be people crying. Of course they're going to be crying, right? If you believe in eternal torment, they're not just going to be sitting here like, no, they're going to be screaming, agonizing in pain. What's the use of burning if you ain't going to be feeling no pain? So to say it's going to be eternal, you're calling God a liar on certain ways. But God, the devil does it so tricky and so subtle. I've noticed it in my personal studies. That's why I had to make this statement. That's where I got this statement from, is because I've seen it in my studies, how the devil, he will make you believe something. And the majority of the time, his little doctrines go against what God teaches. So you end up being an enemy of God and you don't even know it. Because you start believing them, then you want to teach others what you know, like, because we're called to teach. But that's why God says study. Jesus stressed this more time than any other thing in the New Testament. For real. When the disciples came to him in Matthew 24 and they asked him, when shall the end be? First thing he said to them was, be ye not deceived. Be ye not deceived. Jesus speaks on this statement. about people being an enemy of God and not even know it, all because they didn't study and go by just the Bible. Turn in your Bibles with me to Matthew 7:21. He talks about these people. Matthew 7 verse 21, he says, "Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity." These were Christians, and they thought they were doing the will of God. They thought they was doing God's work. But because they started to believe lies from the devil's lies, and then they started to teach them to others, they actually had become enemies of God. Study, beloved. Let God talk to you. Let the word interpret the word. For like we even seen, the sixth reason is, if hell is the lake of burning fire and people are going to be burning, then why would God cast hell into hell? It makes no sense, does it? Take care.